The set was unusually still that morning, too still for a series that, for over a decade, had pulsed with laughter, chatter, and the familiar hum of cameras capturing lives beyond time. After 10 unforgettable years, Outlander was taking its final breath. The air in Airdrie, Scotland, felt heavy, not with exhaustion, but with that bittersweet weight that comes only when something extraordinary is about to end. Caitríona Balfe and Sam Heughan stood side by side in their timeless costumes, ready to become Claire and Jamie Fraser one last time, two souls who had loved, fought, and endured across centuries of storytelling. When the director finally whispered, "Cut," for the very last time, a sacred silence settled over the set. No one moved. The crew clapped softly, some wiping tears, unwilling to shatter the spell. Sam turned to Caitríona, and for a long moment, they simply looked at each other, 10 years of laughter, heartbreak, and triumph passing silently between them. Then she stepped forward, wrapped her arms around him, and he held her close. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. The embrace said everything words never could. That evening, when the costumes were folded away and the once bustling set lay in quiet ruin, Caitríona sat down for what would be her final Outlander interview. She had done hundreds before, but this one was different. Her voice was softer, her eyes rimmed red with tears that hadn't quite dried. When asked how it felt to say goodbye, she smiled faintly. "It's strange," she said. "You spend so long living someone else's life that you almost forget where your own begins again." The interviewer hesitated, then asked the question fans had waited years to hear. "And what about Sam? What has he meant to you through all this?" Caitríona's fingers brushed the small locket around her neck, a keepsake from the show's early days. "Sam," she repeated quietly, almost tasting the name. Then she laughed, eyes glistening. "How do you even put that into words?" She paused, searching for strength, then with a trembling smile, she spoke the sentence that would echo across the world: "I love him. Not the way people imagine, but deeply, truly. He's my person." The room fell utterly silent. The interviewer didn't dare interrupt. Caitríona continued, her voice steadier now, yet brimming with emotion. "We've spent more time together than with anyone else these past 10 years. We've seen each other through everything, the good, the bad, the days we wanted to quit. And through it all, he's been constant. He's been my safe place." She wiped at her tears, laughing softly. "I know people always wanted a different story between us, something romantic. But what we have is bigger than that. It's love, just not the kind you can easily explain. It's built on trust, on respect, on knowing that no matter what happens, that person will always be there." For years, fans had spun endless theories about their relationship. They'd both denied them with grace and humor. Yet in that moment, Caitríona said the one truth that had always lingered unspoken: love doesn't always look the way people expect. When the interview aired days later, the internet exploded. "I love him," she had said, voice trembling, and millions felt it. Clips flooded social media. Fan pages overflowed with tears, theories, and tributes. Some called it a confession, others closure, but most agreed on one thing: it was the most beautiful goodbye imaginable. Behind the scenes, Sam had already seen the interview. Friends said he'd watched it alone in his flat, smiling quietly as her words replayed. "That's her," he murmured. "Always honest. Always brave." When asked later about her comments, he didn't hesitate. "I love her too," he said simply. "We've shared something unique, something that doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling." In those few words, the world finally understood, theirs wasn't a scripted love story. It was something real, something unspoken, something eternal. As Caitríona left the studio that day, she looked up at the grey Scottish sky and whispered through her tears, "It's funny. We started as Claire and Jamie, but I think we're ending as Sam and Caitríona, and that's even more special." Within days, her interview went viral. Headlines screamed, "Caitríona Balfe confesses love for Sam Heughan." Fans flooded the internet with emotional posts and reaction videos. For millions who had lived Outlander through them, her words felt like the perfect finale. But for Sam and Caitríona, it wasn't about the noise. It was about something sacred, something private. In a follow-up interview, Caitríona smiled knowingly. "I suppose it sounded dramatic," she admitted. "But it wasn't a confession. It was just the truth." She leaned forward, eyes soft. You can't go through 10 years like that without love. You can't fake it, not for that long. She spoke of a bond built on partnership and trust. He's seen me at my best and my worst. Every milestone, every late night, every breakdown. He's the one person I can be unguarded with, and that's rare in this business. Her voice faltered slightly as she recalled their final day on set. We'd said goodbye so many times, end of seasons, long breaks, but this time was different. When I looked at Sam that last day, I realized how much of my life is tied up in his. It's that simple. Across the Atlantic, while filming, Sam saw the clip again. Reporters said he paused between takes, smiled faintly, and whispered, "She always finds the better words." Hours later, he posted a short message, 10 years. A lifetime of memories. I love you too, my friend. Thank you for being my partner through it all. That single post broke the internet all over again. Fans wept. One comment read, "We don't need Jamie and Claire anymore. Sam and Caitríona are the real story." But those closest to them knew the beauty wasn't in the headlines, it was in the quiet truth of two people who had found something almost impossible in Hollywood, a genuine, ego-free connection. "They're more like soulmates than colleagues," one producer said. "It's not romantic, it's human." Weeks later, in a joint interview, Sam and Caitríona laughed off the frenzy. "We really should start charging rent for all the space we take up in people's imaginations," Sam joked. Caitríona chuckled. "It's sweet, though," she said. "It means the story mattered. And if people see love between us, that's probably the best compliment we could get." Beneath the laughter, though, the tenderness lingered. When asked what she'd learned from working with Sam, Caitríona's voice softened. "Patience," she said. "Kindness. The importance of listening. He taught me how to stay grounded when everything feels chaotic." Then, glancing at him, she added quietly, "He's been my anchor for 10 years. Sam smiled, eyes glistening. "And she's been my heart." The room fell silent, the same kind of silence that had filled the set after their final scene. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't for the cameras. It was real, two people quietly grateful for something they could never quite define. Months later, they moved on to new projects and new lives, yet remained constants in each other's orbit, checking in, cheering on, sending notes across continents. When Caitríona's new film premiered, Sam sent flowers with a note, "Still your biggest fan." When Sam released his memoir, Caitríona posted, "Proud of you, always." In a later interview, Caitríona reflected on what Outlander had truly given her beyond fame. "It gave me Sam," she said simply. "And that's something I'll carry forever." Her words echoed something Sam had once said years before. "You don't choose who becomes part of your story. Sometimes they just arrive and never leave." And so, as the world said goodbye to Claire and Jamie, Sam and Caitríona quietly wrote their own epilogue, not a romantic tale, but one of trust, devotion, and unspoken care. When asked what love means to her now, Caitríona smiled. "It's not about possession or perfection. It's about presence, about knowing someone will always be there, no matter where life takes you." She paused, her eyes distant. "That's what Sam and I have. And honestly, isn't that what everyone's searching for?" It wasn't a confession of romance. It was something rarer, a confession of truth, of gratitude, of the kind of love that doesn't need a label. And as fans replayed her words again and again, one thing became clear. The story of Sam and Caitríona may have begun on screen, but what they built together will live far beyond it. A love story with no ending. Months later, long after the final episode aired and the noise of headlines had faded, Scotland was quiet again. The hills stood wrapped in mist, the same mist that had once carried their voices across the glen. Sam returned to the old set one last time, now silent, weathered, and wild. He walked through the ruins of Lallybroch, the place where it had all begun, his footsteps echoing softly in the empty courtyard. A light drizzle began to fall. He smiled to himself, remembering her laugh, her eyes, the way she'd once said that some stories never truly end. Reaching into his coat, he pulled out a small envelope, no name on it, just a simple seal pressed in gold. Inside was a single card, written in her familiar handwriting. See you in the next story. See. Sam stood there for a long while, the rain mingling with the quiet warmth in his eyes. Somewhere across the sea, perhaps on another set, another life, she was smiling too. And for a moment, it didn't feel like goodbye at all. Just the beginning of something still unwritten.